Mike Duffy pulls no punches during an unprecedented hearing in the Red Chamber regarding the Senate expense scandal. The senator is still under investigation, but the Conservatives want him and two others suspended anyway. In a dramatic appearance, Duffy said he is the victim of a conspiracy that started in the Prime Minister's office. Breaking down this story for us is Mark Dunn, who joins us from our Ottawa Bureau. And Mark, I'm sure this story, this scandal, this saga, call it what you will, is keeping all of you politicos very, very busy and on your toes.
Yeah, I mean, too bad we didn't have TV cameras up in the Senate.
Yeah,
but
no kidding.
wow, eh? You poke an angry bear, man, and he's Mike Duffy is the scorched earth policy, Anita, trying to drag down everyone around him for the way
guns blazing.
He says he was treated to call guns blazing. Yeah, it was like a nuclear bombshell. You know, using words like bribery, extortion, threats, and you know, I think some of the interesting things I took out of what happened yesterday is just the number of people who were in the know, if you will, about the $90,000 check the Prime Minister's former Chief of Staff, Nigel Wright, cut Mr. Duffy, a check he said he didn't want, and of course all this pressure, threats, bribery. But I think I've counted on my hand about 13 people so far were in the know, including senators and people in the Prime Minister's office. But some really explosive stuff. Let's have a little listen to some of the stuff Mr. Duffy had to say yesterday.
I was called at home in Cavendish by Ray Novak, Senior Assistant to the Prime Minister. He had with him Senator LeBreton, Leader of the Government in the Senate. Senator LeBreton was emphatic. The deal was off. If I didn't resign from the Conservative caucus within 90 minutes, I'd be thrown out of the caucus immediately, without a meeting, without a vote. In addition, she said, if I didn't quit the caucus immediately, I'd be sent to the Senate Ethics Committee with orders from the leadership to throw me out of the Senate. With Ray Novak, my wife and my sister listening in on the call, Senator Breton was insistent. You've got to do this, Mike. Do what I'm telling you. Quit the caucus within the next 90 minutes. It's the only way to save your paycheck. Quote.
Quite interesting stuff. I'll point out too, Anita, Ray Novak now, of course, is the Prime Minister's current Chief of Staff. But Mr. Duffy, you know, he talked about some of the senators. He mentioned Senator LeBreton, who used to be the government leader in the Senate until she resigned a couple of months ago from that position and says she's going to retire by the next election. But another key person there, Senator Carolyn Stewart Olson, who used to be the Prime Minister's former press secretary until she got elevated to the Red Chamber. She's been implicated, dragged down yesterday as well. And interesting, some breaking news here. She was like one of the key members on the Committee of the Internal Economy. This is the committee that did some of the reports, doctored some reports. She was part of a steering committee. And she's apparently no longer on that committee. As one of my sources said today, she got resigned. So the scandal has claimed at least another senator on these very powerful key Senate committees. But yeah, some explosive stuff yesterday. Of course, we're expecting Senator Pamela Wallin to get her kick at the can, probably around 2:45 Eastern time this afternoon. But you're right, question period today. I suspect it's today's caucus day here in Ottawa, so all the federal parties are meeting as we speak. It should be a lot of fireworks, very explosive. Thomas Mulcair, the NDP leader, was out just a little while ago, just saying that Mr. Parper basically is sitting at the center of this corruption scandal and tolerates corruption in his office. And of course, what they're going to try to do is just link from when Mr. Harper back in February told Duffy to repay the money, which is one thing, and then of course when the story broke in May that Mr. Wright actually cut Mr. Duffy a check, there's a big gap in there, and so a lot of people think are disbelieving that the Prime Minister did not know what was going on. But again, this is politics. You'll have plausible deniability, and usually the staff around you try to keep you in the dark about some of the dirty little secrets that go on in this den town of Ottawa.
All right. Well, you mentioned Thomas Mulcair. I know we're speaking to NDP MP Paul Dewar a bit later on the program. The NDP, of course, coming out in full force, predictably wanting to get their face all over this scandal and start pointing some big fingers at the PMO. All right, Mark Dunn, thank you so much for this.
We'll see you later.
That is our senior parliamentary correspondent, Mark Dunn, in Ottawa. Let's bring in our political strategist and vice president of Daisy Consulting Group, Lisa Kirby, who just listened to Mark Dunn. This is not a good situation for the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister right now.
To say the least.
Yeah.
As you know, I've spent a number of years working in the Senate, and I don't think anyone, myself included, ever thought that we would be here today. Mike Duffy did what he needed to do yesterday, and that was basically, throw a bomb, a pox on all your houses. And
he's kind of good at that because let's not forget, he's a former journalist.
For sure. I mean, it was an Oscar-worthy performance, things that you haven't seen since Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments. And it was wonderful theater. It was wonderful political theater, coupled by the fact.
Lisa, I'm just going to interrupt you for a quick second. We want to take our viewers back to Ottawa, where Justin Trudeau, the head of the Liberal Party, is speaking out, and I think he might be addressing the spending scandal.
The Prime Minister is responsible for these people and has so far entirely avoided taking any responsibility. Ultimately, the only way we are going to be able to begin to restore confidence in this institution and the people who serve here is if everyone involved, including the Prime Minister, testifies under oath. I think it's regrettable that we've had to come to this point, but there is no question that that is now what is going to be needed.
Qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire? Témoigner sous serment, quel genre de forum ça
on est rendu maintenant au point où, pour moi, la seule façon qu'on va commencer à pouvoir rebâtir un niveau de confiance dans cette institution, dans les gens qui y servent, va être que tous les gens impliqués, y compris le Premier ministre, témoignent sous serment. Il y a différentes façons de le faire, il y a différentes pistes vers ça, et j'en propose pas une, mais je sais qu'on est rendu au niveau où il va falloir que les gens témoignent sous serment.
Public inquiry? Are you talking about like a public inquiry or what?
There are many different ways of getting to testifying under oath. There's an RCMP investigation going on now. There are other venues and forums for it, but we are now at the point where the level of confidence in the Prime Minister and in the various stories going around is so low that it is going to take testimony under oath.
What Canadians believe, Stephen Harper or Mike Duffy?
I think ultimately leadership is about taking responsibility. Mr. Harper is responsible for Mr. Wright, Mr. Duffy, Ms. Wallen and others, and needs to actually demonstrate the kind of leadership that will reassure Canadians. Right now it's not about taking responsibility.
But the Prime Minister says he didn't know. He said, look, they all did this, they didn't tell me, and Mr. Wright took responsibility.
The Prime Minister has consistently avoided answering questions in question period of the media. He has not demonstrated the kind of leadership, the kind of responsibility that a leader needs to demonstrate, and that's going to have to change.
Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Trudeau, can I ask you about Colin Kenny? There's a former aide to Colin Kenny is saying that she was used, half of her time was spent taking care of his personal business. Can I get your response to that? Can I get it in English and French too, please?
It's important that we, as public officials, show due respect for everybody who works in this place, and there are appropriate venues for questions around conduct of employers and employees that should be pursued. C'est important que nous démontrons un niveau de...
You're just watching Justin Trudeau, head of the Liberal Party of Canada, speaking out about the Senate expense scandal. He's taking straight aim, predictably, at the Prime Minister of Canada, saying the Prime Minister needs to basically address the situation under oath and answer for his actions. I want to get reaction from Lisa Kirby, a key strategist here at Sun News. So, Justin Trudeau wanting to hear more from Prime Minister Harper, but with a lot more weight attached to his answers.
He said exactly the right thing. There is enough questions being raised now about who knew what and when, and Mark Dunn had mentioned it when he was speaking with you. 13 people have now been revealed to kind of know about this situation, when at the beginning of this, it was supposedly just Nigel Wright and Mike Duffy. So I think Justin's absolutely correct. And there is a variety of mechanisms that can be employed to get testimony under oath, one of which could be a Senate committee. And if the whole matter is referred over to committee, they can call whomever they wish, and you're getting testimony under oath. You know, Mike Duffy yesterday, he wasn't under oath. He was giving his side of the story as he wanted to present it.
Oscar-worthy, as you stated.
Oscar-worthy, very scripted. And I don't think anyone truly feels sorry for Mike Duffy coming out of what happened yesterday. You know, it's kind of...
And is that what Harper's maybe banking on? Because we had a reporter there ask, who do you think the Canadian public, because really at the end of the day, that's what matters, who are voters especially going to side with, the Prime Minister of Canada or a man who was mired in this expense scandal? And we should note, the Prime Minister, Mike Duffy, Warren Kinsella saying this in the last hour, he inadvertently gave Mr. Duffy an out. He said, the guy told me to return the money. What more do you want? Harper's looking not good, decent.
But one of the things that you and Warren also discussed was, why did the Prime Minister send out his parliamentary secretary? Why didn't he make a statement? I'd suggest maybe he can't. Right? Maybe there is more to this. Maybe his involvement is greater than what has previously been stated, and they can't put him out on the stage on this one yet.
Okay, so, Lisa, let's get more reaction from you in just a second, but I believe Justin Trudeau is now speaking in English again. Let's take you there.
What actually happened last year? That's what we as a party, as a Liberal Party, have been asking for since May. To get testimony under oath as to what actually happened in this, and that unfortunately, regrettably, is now the only thing that I believe is going to restore confidence to Canadians across the country who are extremely disappointed with the lack of leadership of their Prime Minister.
Mr. Kenny, I mean, in terms of showing leadership on that issue, is it not more than just how he treated his staff, but also how he was using Senate resources? I mean, that he had a staffer doing personal work on the Senate dime on Senate time.
I am extremely pleased that the Liberal Party has gone above and beyond in terms of raising the bar on transparency and openness, and that is something that I am demanding of all members of Parliament and senators. And if there are questions about anyone's behaviour, then those questions must be answered directly and openly. Rules need to be followed. Employment guidelines need to be followed in this place. That's what Canadians expect, and it's what the Liberal Party expects.
Will you be talking to the senator?
Compte tenu de toutes les personnes qui étaient impliquées dans cette transaction-là, dans ce chèque de 90 000 auprès...
So once again, Justin Trudeau basically being asked, really, who does this look worse for, Duffy or the Prime Minister of Canada? And we should once again note, it's Duffy that is mired in this huge scandal. We have Harper pretty much saying, and everyone agrees to it, hey, you got to return the money. But you're bringing up an interesting point, is why isn't the Prime Minister all over that? If he has an out, why isn't he taking it?
That's right. Why hasn't he been emphatic? Why has he sent out his parliamentary secretary to speak on his behalf? And I suspect that there's perhaps a bit more here than what we know at this point. And I think Mike Duffy did enough yesterday to suggest that there does need to be, some sort of committee if it gets referred to committee, or an inquiry maybe. But we do need to learn more, and I suspect we will. Pam Wallen will be speaking this afternoon in the Senate, which of course is not televised.
Audio only.
Audio only, and we'll hear from her too, whether or not she has some new interesting facts to present as well.
Duffy, just getting back to him for a second, because Pamela Wallen hasn't spoken yet, and of course we'll talk about her when she does, but Duffy's really got to be careful here, because even though he came out all guns blazing yesterday, he's still in a big fat mess, and he's really got to watch it and not be that big warrior on Parliament Hill.
Well, he does. He said that he has turned over to the RCMP many emails, and he has to be careful then what comes back to him. He's making public statements that are on the record, and he doesn't want to get caught in any sort of misperceptions of what he may or may not be claiming.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens, but there's more people that we need to hear from, including people in the PMO.
And I'm sure, Lisa, we will be hearing from all of them at some point in time. As always, we appreciate your analysis. Great job.
Thanks.
That is political strategist and vice president of Daisy Consulting Group, Lisa Kirby.